Some questions came up in the comments about the turbo dry versus the normal dry and what the real difference is. Unfortunately, I don't think the literature really tells us what the difference is beyond the fact that the machine needs to pump more water onto the drum or spray more water onto the drum to cool it down during turbo dry, presumably that there's a little bit of added heat. But that's a big assumption to make. I haven't really used turbo dry because I always thought it was a gimmick, something to give you an option to try to dry things faster. But seeing how the machine works on normal dry and how things still come out a little bit damp sometimes and you need to let the humidity escape and then do another 30 minutes to fully dry things, or you take them out and they air dry on their own anyway. It seemed to me that to try to speed up that process is just going to not work. So I thought, why even try bothering with the turbo dry? So I just never use it. If I've used it, it's been just accidentally. I didn't mean to press the turbo dry and it just happened to be the selection that I chose. So I don't really know in a year and a half of almost 2 years, it'll be 2 years in April, what turbo dry is really like. So I thought maybe I should try it and give you some anecdotal evidence. The first thing I did was I did a wash of some t-shirts and some socks and some underwear and some light towels and other things. And I did that cycle with a normal wash cycle, nothing fancy. I think I used warm wash and I chose turbo dry and the automatic dry cycle to follow the wash. And I was a little bit shocked that that dry cycle with the cottons, mostly lightweight cottons, came out 100% bone dry, whereas I would normally do that load in the normal dry and it would kind of come out mostly dry and I'd let it air out and then I'd do another 30 minutes just to really extra dry it up. And I didn't have to do that. And I thought, well, maybe this turbo dry has something going for it. And then I did my typical load, which is 2 bath towels and a pair of jeans or some combination of towels and jeans. I did that on a normal wash with steam. So it was a longer wash. It was like an hour and 15, hour and 20 minute wash cycle with the steam. The steam always adds an hour to your wash cycle. And I chose turbo dry. And with both of these cycles, it was extra high spin. So it's going to be extracting as much of the water as possible. In this case, they came out even more damp than when they come out with a normal cycle. So normally when I wash towels and jeans and things like that, I wash them and I do a normal dry and they come out mostly dry, a little damp if you shake them out and air them out. They'll dry naturally on their own before you put them away. But I like to then let them sit, let the machine cool down and the humidity escape from the machine. And then I do the individual things each with another 30 minutes of dry cycle just to get it really bone dry the way I like it. And I'm not folding it away with any sort of moisture and going to create mildew or mustiness or anything like that. So when I did this with the turbo dry, it came out slightly more damp, which actually reinforces my original thought was that turbo dry is going to be faster, but probably not more effective. It seemed to be more effective for the lightweight cotton stuff, but it was not as effective for these clothes that hold a lot of moisture and retain that moisture and have a lot of absorptive quality to them. We're gonna do one more test. I've got my bedding here. I've got 3 queen size flannel sheets, 2 flannel pillowcases, and I'm going to do my normal wash cycle with the steam cycle and do a turbo dry and see what happens with these. Also with these, when I'm doing the larger items, it's a little bit overloaded with 3 queen-sized pieces of bedding. They don't all get as dry as I like them to be, so again, I do the same thing. I pull all the items out, I let the machine cool down, and then I dry each of the larger items one at a time, and with one of them, I throw the pillowcases in as well, and I do each of them an extra 30 minutes of dry, and they get bone dry at that point. So let's see what happens when I do it with a turbo dry. Normal cycle, steam, turbo dry, detergent, and we go. Usually I do this cycle and it does an estimated 4 hours and 48 minutes time. That's the amount of time it takes to wash and dry. And sometimes it's 3 hours and some minutes, but we'll see what the turbo dry says. Usually the turbo dry shaves like 15-20 minutes off of the dry from what little experience I've had. So we'll find out as soon as that does its initial analysis. 3 hours and 13 minutes. So, like I said, usually it's 4 hours and 48 minutes. Sometimes it's 3 hours and 38 minutes or something like that. So I think this must be interpreting it as the 3 hour and 38 minute cycle and dropping off 15-20 minutes, a half hour or so on the dry cycle by selecting the turbo dry. We'll come back after it's done and see what the results are. The cycle just finished. Let's check it out. As a reminder, this was 3 flannel queen-sized bed sheets on a steam cycle with turbo dry. We're trying to see if there's any difference between turbo dry and regular normal dry. Normally when I pull these out, I pull them out right after the load is done. They're hot, they're a little bit humid, damp, and I let the machine cool down and I let the 3 pieces air out and I send them all through another 30 minutes each. And then they get completely dry and I'm able to fold them and put them away. And general assessment here, I think it is a little bit more humid, a little bit more damp. We're going to just pull them out one at a time, kind of shake them out and see if anything changes after a few minutes. The flannel sheets do hold in a lot of moisture. They're very moisture absorbent. And as I said at the beginning, this machine doesn't dry real well if you overload it too much. So I think 3 sheets is a little bit at the limit or slightly over the limit of volume that it can dry effectively, which is why I then send them through another 30 minutes each after they dry, although I'm going to come back in a bit and see. Probably want to send them through again, but they did feel a little more damp. So that kind of confirms my suspicions that turbo dry is trying to be a shortcut to normal dry. And even if it's using more heat, I don't think it's necessarily more effective. Although in the one instance, it was more effective with my t-shirts and underwear and socks and things. Not so effective with towels and jeans and these larger sheets. I may end up doing some more tests and experimenting some more, doing another follow-up video on this when I get some more interesting results. I need to think of what kind of tests and things to try out to kind of gauge this and get more reference data. Last night I did another load of laundry, mostly cottons, t-shirts, underwear, socks, that sort of thing. I used normal wash, warm water, no steam wash cycle, and turbo dry. For the second time, that combination felt successful with the turbo dry. The load finished around 11 p.m., so rather than pulling everything out and dealing with it then, I left it in the tub overnight. So in the morning, I ran it through with another 30-minute dry cycle just to warm everything up and fluff everything up. I mean, who wants to put away cold, dry laundry, right? It's the visceral feel of it that's important, right? That's the important, those are the little pleasures in life. So we got to experience the pleasures in life. But I don't think it needed it. I don't think it needed that extra 30-minute cycle. Conclusion, the turbo dry does seem to be successful under certain circumstances. It is not a good choice for bath towels and jeans or combinations thereof. It's not a good choice for oversized items like bed sheets. And it's not a good choice for overfilled dryer loads. So choose your turbo dry cycle wisely based upon the content of your wash load.